All right. All right, guys. This is our first sports podcast. It's me, Justin Martinez. We got Rolando Zamora, and we got Ben Diaz. We're going to be talking sports all the way through and anything that entertains us throughout the week. All right, we're starting up. Here we go. NFL draft. We're going to talk about. I'm going to kick it off for Roland first. We're going to be talking about the virtual draft. What do you guys see the potential of the virtual draft? Do you think we're going to see anything different? We're going to see a long time being taken over as far as making these
Mm,
picks. Are we going to see it like a lot faster? What's your thoughts,
I think a
Roland?
lot of it. I think a lot of it depends on just how well the technology works, which I think it should be, top end technology. So I think it'll go by just as fast. But the one thing that we were talking about off air before we came online today was whether or not we're going to see the same amount of trades or movement in the draft. Just because, as you know, we can't have more than 10 people in a room. So there's already been talk about teams not being in the same room, like the war room. There's not going to be a war room this year. There's going to be a bunch of guys talking on Skype or Zoom meetings, kind of like we are doing right now. So I don't know, the communication intra-team is going to be there. So I don't know if guys are going to be inclined to make as many moves as they once used to. So that's the one change that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing in the virtual draft. So I don't know what Ben thinks about that, but that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I don't know that the virtual draft's gonna affect trades so much just because of the conference calls and things. It's all telephone. I don't know. They're not really meeting in person. I understand not all the teams being in there. I could see ways that it could affect it. I was pumped to see it in Vegas, man. I thought it was gonna be like a whole spectacle. They were gonna go off.
The way the
It's the
Vegas
Now
is
it's
doing
coronavirus,
it.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a bummer, but then it's like the best thing that we're getting sports wise. So it's like, hey, however you're gonna do it, let's just get it done. I'm excited for the draft. My Texans don't have a pick in the first round, so
Sorry
it's
about
like,
that.
yeah, what can we do, right? But I'm excited to see where a lot of these players that I've been watching in college go. So, virtual draft, I'm excited for it, and I don't know what to expect.
I'm
That's
definitely excited for it as well. I think it could slow them down as far as the process goes. Having to do everything virtually, talking to your whole team, not being in the same room. That could take some time. Um, I think it's not going to have an effect on trades. I think NFL teams, for the most part, already know what they want to do, know who they want to pick, and they have the big board ready for a reason. So I don't think we're going to see much of an effect on there. My question is: do the draftees still dress up? Are you going to be sitting at home with the tux, or are you just going to be in a casual outfit?
Uh,
I don't know. We'll
I,
see.
I'd be in a casual outfit myself. I
If
wouldn't
I'm
dress
home,
up
I'm
in a
in a casual
tux.
outfit. I'm not in a
Yeah,
tux.
I think it's going to be pretty funny to see Roger Goodell running the draft from his basement.
right.
Because
I
that's where
like
he's going to
that.
be doing it from.
Hey,
So
well, with the way things are going, and them wanting to open things up quick, let's see if some news doesn't break midweek. The draft's
Okay.
still on the weekend, so maybe things could change. I'm sure the setting of the draft and all that isn't going to change, but as far as everybody's availability in the same spot, I guess maybe it could change.
We see if they
We'll
add
see.
yeah.
any addendum to the rules or anything like that.
Right? Yeah,
All
exactly.
right, the next thing we want to talk about is sleeper picks. Who do you guys have? Who's a sleeper pick right now?
I don't know if I necessarily have a sleeper pick in the draft per se, but definitely one person that I'm looking for kind of to win like rookie of the year. Kind of that's how I looked at the draft in terms of sleepers was I think whatever receiver lands with the Raiders, I think is going to win rookie of the year, whether that's CD Lamb or
Okay.
Jerry Judy. I think they're going to step into a high-powered offense. They already have a good running back, and they're going to be looking for a number one receiver. They just lost Amari Cooper. They had Antonio Brown, who never came through. They
Yeah.
were relying really on Darren Waller and guys like Tyrell Williams. He's not a true number one, but he's a guy who's going to, he can take the top off the defense. He has that speed for you, but he's not a number one. So I think whoever gets drafted is going to be asked to be the number one. They're going to get a lot of targets. Hopefully that translates to a lot of yards and touchdowns. So if I were to pick a guy, I'd probably have to go with CD Lamb if he's going to get drafted by the Raiders, who I like to win Rookie of the Year
For
this
offense.
year.
All right. What about you,
Yeah.
Ben?
Shoot, I don't have much expectations, but One guy that I like Roland, I thought that I was thinking whatever receiver the 49ers draft with their top pick.
Okay.
So I was thinking whatever receiver they got, but then I drafted on my Madden franchise Travis Etienne, and he's a beast.
Too
So
bad
Yeah,
he's not
like-
coming out though.
He's not
yeah,
coming
I
out. I
know.
don't know how he got in that
And,
franchise.
and then y'all told me he wasn't coming out. That's the guy who I was excited for. But no, honestly, for offensive rookie of the year, I think it's going to be a receiver. Roland made a good point about the Raiders. I didn't even think about that, and that's because they got to air it out and they don't have many weapons. So,
Yeah.
but for sure, I think it's going to be a receiver that's going to get rookie of the year. That's going to be if not Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
Burrow.
Oh, I do got
Speaking of-
I got a sleeper pick. Michael Pittman, USC.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
think he's getting the
Receiver,
love that
right?
he needs. Receiver. He's 6'4". I mean, he's got all the tools. I don't know why he's not getting the love. But
It's an extremely deep class.
It
So
is. It's a
even if he's
deep
getting in the
receiver
second
class.
round,
Okay.
it's not anything to be ashamed of.
that's where he's projected right now. But I see him as a top 5 receiver. I really do.
Where is he projected right now?
The second round.
Okay, dang, yeah. Another good one would be whatever receiver the Eagles draft because they're going to be getting work.
Yeah, they're going to need a receiver. I think they're relying right now on Alshon Jeffrey and JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So
Well, I think
they
Deshaun
definitely could
Jackson's
use some
still
help.
coming back, but he was
There
injured
you
all
go.
last
Sean
year.
Watson.
But
Yeah.
how reliable is he going to be? You know, at his age now,
Yeah.
he'll give him a couple of games. He always gives Philly a couple games.
He'll always be a burner for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely need another number one out there.
And a young guy because all those guys are older, except for Arcega Whiteside.
All right. What about the defensive side of the ball? Who do you guys have as the rookie of the year there?
I think obviously you got a couple of guys at the top of the draft who are going to be candidates just right out the gate, and Isaiah Simmons and Chase Young and Okuda. I think that's how you pronounce his name out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
But if I were
Hollywood and
picking,
Detroit.
if I were picking outside of that group, I'd probably have to go with Kenneth Murray or
Linebacker.
blanking out on his name, the linebacker from LSU, the middle linebacker. I
Chase
think he has really good ball instinct. No, let me see. I had his name written down somewhere. I'm blanking out on it right now. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Oh, Patrick Queen. There you go,
Okay.
Patrick Queen. He's a middle linebacker out of LSU. Both guys have good ball instincts. The reason why I said Murray first, though, is because he has that sideline to sideline speed, and he plays middle linebacker. He can play any of those positions, outside or inside. So he'd be one sleeper guy that's outside of the top 10 that I would like to sneak in and possibly win Defensive Rookie of the Year,
I think
depending where he gets
was
picked.
Murray was a 3-star coming out of high school.
Yeah, and he played at Oklahoma,
And he
and
looks-
they're not really
he
known
looked
lately for throwing out
amazing.
defenders.
All the
Yeah.
time he played, he looked amazing. He was super fast. What about you, Ben?
I don't think that there's a dark horse or a sleeper. I think I'm going to keep the same trend of the past couple of years. Defensive end, bro. Chase Young.
Chase Young?
I mean, it's his to lose.
It's his to
definitely,
lose.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see you.
Should be the favorite.
It's his
outside
to
the
lose,
gate.
and I don't see him losing it. So, yeah, I'm going to save my dark horse, and I'm just going to pick the obvious pick and go Chase Young to follow what T.J. Watt did and Bosa did. It's just been defensive ends getting it lately.
All right, well, on to the next one. Let's talk about Tua. If Tua doesn't get hurt, are we talking Joe Burrow over Tua for the first overall pick?
Probably not. I think if I didn't mean to cut you off there, Justin, but I think if Tua has a healthy season and he plays all 13 or 14 games, depending on where they ended up in the national championship scenario, I think he's the number one pick. I mean, even the games that he played, I think he only played 9 games and put up 33 touchdowns and like 2 or 3 interceptions. So he was still on pace to be the number one pick. Injuries just got in his way, and no slight to Joe Burrow, but he completely balled out his last year there at LSU. The only year that he had there at LSU, he did everything perfectly. He went 15-0, won a national championship, won the Heisman, did himself a huge favor. But
Oh yeah.
I definitely think, to answer your first question, if Tua's healthy, he's the number one pick, no doubt.
I see you over there. What do you want to say?
I'm going to disagree only because of the season Joe Burrow had. Like you said, I think regardless if Tua was healthy and Joe Burrow has that season, he's winning the national title. He's winning the Heisman over Tua, even if Tua's healthy. So, I don't know. I think it's always the hot guy that's coming off that season as far as quarterback goes. Like random dudes just shoot up.
Yeah.
It's always weird, and the injury stuff definitely didn't help him for sure. But healthy, I just didn't see Alabama winning the national title. So I figured if the quarterback that's winning the national title and had an undefeated season and beat Alabama, that they were just going to go with Joe Burrow, and he balled out, dude. So I'm excited for Joe Burrow.
Yeah, he did.
All right, if you're the
And he-
GM, are you picking Tua, or is he just too much injury for you to pick?
I mean, I'm just really high on Tua, so I'm probably the wrong guy to be asking because I'm all in on Tua at this point. So I think you need to take him because let's say, like, for example, you know, the hot topic right now that everybody's been talking about the last week, and I think we're just really at that point where there's nothing else to talk about, so we're going to talk about anything and everything and nitpick everything.
Yeah.
Is Tua going to go to the Dolphins, which had seemed to be like a lock the past couple of weeks and early on in the process up until lately. Now there's a discussion of where's he going to land, 5 with the Dolphins or 6 with the Chargers. The last spot that you want to be in is the Miami Dolphins passing on Tua. You take Justin Herbert and you see Tua go to the Chargers and have instant success or have some form of success that's considered better than what you had. I mean, that's the risk that you run in these things when you're in these type of positions as a general manager, but that's the last thing that you want because if you think about it, injuries aside, it's not even close who should be drafted at number 5. It's Tua all day and all night over Justin Herbert from what I've seen. No offense to Justin Herbert. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he has potential, but just based on what we've seen, injuries aside, Tua's the guy. You don't want to pass up on Tua because you're scared of the injuries and then see him go and be healthy and win divisions and win a Super Bowl and be successful with another team. You don't want to be that general manager. So that's my answer.
Upside over the injury prone.
Definitely.
What about you, Ben?
On my thought process to it is, if I'm the Dolphins at 5, and I'm the GM for the Dolphins at 5, it's definitely a harder choice than if I'm the Chargers GM at 6, and the Dolphins already had to pick between Herbert and Tua, because give me Tua over Herbert for sure.
Yeah.
But Herbert has no injury issues, and Tua does. In a perfect world, yeah, I would take Tua, right? But if the Dolphins take Herbert and I'm the Chargers GM, I can't go wrong picking Tua because that's what everybody's going to want anyway. And if he fails,
scenario.
yeah, exactly, it's the perfect scenario. So to me, it depends. Would I pick him? I think he's the second best quarterback in the draft, so I'll definitely pick him over any of the other quarterbacks. But like I said, that position-wise, it makes a huge difference. Like the Dolphins GM could look like a dummy for drafting Tua and him busting, and the Chargers GM would still be okay drafting Tua at 6 after the Dolphins took Herbert and him busting.
It'll be like a he fell in your lap kind of
Exactly.
scenario. Yeah, like you have to take him. Yeah, for sure.
It's a good take.
I
That's a
agree.
good take. All right, let's move on to the next subject. We're going to talk our favorite draft props. Roland, you want to go ahead and tell me what are your favorite draft props?
Yeah, this is one that, you and I, we were actually talking about a little bit before that I think you and I are both kind of on the same page on this one. And this is probably going to be my favorite. I have a couple here, but just to start off with my favorite, it would be, we just got done talking a little bit about him, is Justin Herbert over 5.5. I really do think that the last couple of weeks of talk of him going to the Dolphins at 5 is just smoke and mirrors. I think people have nothing left better to do other than talk about, what could possibly happen. I mean, we're in a quarantine and, people usually do that to begin with. So, multiply that by 2 or 3 times and, that's the scenario that we have today. So I think Justin Herbert over 5.5, that means that he has to be taken at 6 or, 6 and beyond for that pick to cash. So that's what I'm rolling with as my strongest prop pick.
I'm with that. I have him going to the Jaguars. That's where I have him at. You, Ben?
So, yeah, I haven't looked much into the props, to be honest. But I had a question. I was going to say, so out of the top 5 picks, you think at most only 2 QBs get taken, right?
Yeah, I think 2 QBs get taken in the top 5, and Tua and Joe Burrow.
So 2, 3, and 4 is Detroit.
Detroit, which I'm thinking Okuda.
Washington taking Chase Young at number 2.
Right. That's Chase
Scary
Young.
line at Washington.
And who's at 4? Who's at
The
number
fourth
4?
pick is the New York Giants, and they've been linked to
Simmons.
a couple of guys. Offensive line, Isaiah Simmons is the main guy they've been linked to at
And
Clemson.
on all of those teams, honestly, the Giants might seem the most set at QB, but
Yeah,
I
I know.
wouldn't rule out. I wouldn't rule out. It would definitely be a wild card. But for the Lions or even the Redskins, I know that they said the Redskins, the owner really likes the quarterback that they drafted last year out of Ohio State.
Dwayne
That's-
Haskins.
But everybody else says that the dude's not ready. You know what I mean?
Sure.
His play didn't look the best. So I don't know. I definitely, those teams they have a QB in place in Matthew Stafford, obviously a little bit older, but you don't know if they're trying to replace him. And then the other team in the Redskins, they just drafted a quarterback. Would they waste another top end pick on a quarterback? So it is a little tricky, but there is maybe like routes where maybe more than 2 quarterbacks get picked, just trying to
Yeah,
play
I think definitely one of the teams that you mentioned that's a wild card in there, and I think it's just because that they've always been a dysfunctional kind of franchise, and I'm just kind of speaking as a Cowboys fan here, but the Redskins, you don't know what they're going to do really. I mean, the consensus has been to take Chase Young, but just like you mentioned, Dwayne Haskins, he's a big question mark right now. I like him personally. I think in the right system, you give him time to develop and whatnot, I think he can be a pretty good quarterback for you, but that's not the name of the game today in the NFL. You need production now, and then we just talked about GMs. I mean, those are jobs on the line right there, guys linked to Haskins. I mean, some guy might want to try and save his job and draft another quarterback instead of being linked to Haskins and his success. So I think the Redskins are definitely a wild card, but Chase Young is just too much of a monster to pass up. He's a complete game changer. I know the quarterback position is very, very, very important. I think it's the number 1 position on the field. I mean, they touch the ball every play, but in terms of a defensive importance, if you have a guy that's wreaking havoc on the edge each and every play, I mean, you have to double team him. That opens up the field for your defensive tackles, your other end on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Chase Young can definitely be that kind of guy for
And
you. That's
I
just
guess
a game changer.
Tua going at 2 would just be crazy with the build.
But it could
to the draft
happen.
now.
It could happen. I think the Redskins are a wild card team.
Just
But
talk on that.
Would Tua going at 2 to the Redskins be crazier than the Giants taking Daniel Jones? Would you be more surprised, or would that Daniel Jones pick still be more surprising than Tua going number 2?
nothing that the Giants do surprises me. I think they're crazy. So I don't know. But I'm a Cowboys fan. So
No, what I was just gonna say, as far as you were saying with Chase Young, if he goes to the Redskins, is that the best D line in the NFL? Right then and there.
oh, who else do they have on the D line?
They got the other Alabama kid, Jason Allen, and the defensive tackle from Alabama.
That's right. I think they have the potential, definitely, to wreak havoc, and I don't know. I just need to see
Kerrigan?
Chase Young
I think
produce.
Kerrigan, he's getting a little older.
Kerrigan, there you go.
He can
That's
still
the
produce.
name that I was looking for. I think they definitely have a stout defensive line. I'd be a little hard pressed to say the best in the league, but if Chase Young's that guy that everybody thinks he is, definitely see them being a top end unit in the league.
They had a pretty good defense as it was last year. It's just that they couldn't put up many points.
We'll see what they do this year. I know Haskins didn't have that great of a year, but with another year ahead of him, we'll see what happens.
I would not move forward with that dude at QB. Like I just don't think that you have a chance. But I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I'm not a Redskins fan, so I can't.
Not even Redskins, but just a fan of Haskins.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he's an Ohio State guy, so I kind of like him a little bit. Anyway, so the next topic is the NFL Factory Alabama. Are they going to have more than 5 first-round picks this year, or are they going to be under?
Automatic yes. Over.
No, I
I'd
don't
say
think
they'd
over.
be under this year. Yeah, I'd say they're under this year.
Right at 5.
Yeah, I think they have
3
three
guaranteed.
surefire, 4 surefire when you consider the offensive linemen that they have there. I'm blanking out on his name, but definitely the 2 receivers, Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy, are getting drafted first round.
And
Tua, we
that's
just spent
3.
a whole couple of minutes talking about him. That's 3. The other, I think the wild card that kind of gets you there is potentially Trayvon Diggs, but cornerback is also one of those positions that's really deep, and a lot of teams could decide just to wait till later on in the draft. So I see him more as like a second round draft pick. But I definitely I see the argument for under a 5.5 here. That if I were to bet on that one, that's kind of where I'd place my money.
I'm at 5, straight at 5.
I'm just going out of over. I was seeing earlier today when I was looking around at mocks. I did see the Cowboys, y'all's beloved Cowboys, taking one of the safeties out of Alabama.
Oh yeah, Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, McKinney. So I don't know, man. They have potential. Like they could go under 5, but they could also get 7 guys with the potential that the defensive players have. They have a DB going the first round every year. I don't expect that to change.
All right. What's the last prop bet you had coming into this?
The last prop bet that I had for the NFL draft, and we spoke about him a little bit earlier, being linked to the Giants, was Isaiah Simmons under 6.5. I really think that the only other option that the Giants could possibly go in my mind, and again we could be wrong because just looking at mock drafts each year, they're never really true to form, but the only other position they could take is an offensive lineman in my position. They have too many holes on defense, and Isaiah Simmons can fix 1 or 2 of those holes depending how you utilize him. The term has been thrown around a lot with him of being an Army Swiss knife. You can play him at linebacker, you can play him at either safety position. He's kind of like a rover, if you will, kind of that X factor on your defense that can, like I said, fill multiple holes for your defense that you were struggling at previously. So I like Isaiah Simmons under 6.5. If he doesn't go to the Giants, I could see another team, possibly like the Chargers, taking him. I know we're talking about the Chargers at taking a quarterback at 6, but I can also see an argument for him getting drafted there at the 6th spot and cashing in that bet of under 6.5. So that's the other prop bet that I like a lot.
All right. As far as Simmons, I do like him. I think he's going to be linked to the Giants. Kind of reminds me of Mark Barron a little bit. You know, he was a safety first. They got a little bit bigger. Now he's a linebacker. He has the speed. We all saw that 40-yard dash. I don't see the Giants going offensive this year. They're going to pick Simmons.
And I think they've addressed the offensive line, too, in a couple of different moves. I think they drafted offensive line last year in getting that Hernandez gentleman out of UTEP. And they let go of Flowers, obviously, and I think they signed some other free agents. So I think that opens it up for Isaiah Simmons to get drafted there for sure at 4.
You got anything, Ben, on this one?
Yeah, I think it sounds good, and that's that 40 time. Usually, that whenever defenders have that fast 40 time, especially for a linebacker, they tend to go very high in the draft. So offensive lineman is a possibility for the Giants because their O-line was trash last year. And if they're trying to preserve any life on Saquon Barkley, they definitely got to get and their young QB now too. I would say some O-line, but you can't always pass up on guys like that, like Roland said, that could play multiple positions. They don't come around every draft, so it's going to be close, but I like it.
Man, I'm just excited for some football talk, man. I'm tired of no sports being around. I'm just excited for the draft. Just talking about this excites me. So
one of the prop bets I was talking about as a joke is, do we see more than 9 people in a room during this social distancing time?
I hope not.
Think for sure
I hope
do,
not.
Bro. I think for sure you do.
I think
there's some families that don't care.
Florida doesn't care about anything.
Yeah, there's some families that just don't care for sure.
Yeah. It's all right.
Hey, speaking about Florida, the Jaguars, I don't know if you all saw, but Fournette was lobbying for the Jaguars to bring in Cam Newton.
Yeah.
You know, like for a little QB competition.
Yeah.
And then today I saw that the Jaguars are shopping around Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
So, what?
Yeah, I saw that today too.
And he's not even owed that much money, bro.
I don't know. I think
4 point some million.
Yeah, but
go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say that the whole thing that I think with the whole running back situation, I don't know if it's just so much on Leonard Fournette. I don't think he does himself any favors in terms of how outspoken he is.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I like him. I don't think he's wrong in a lot of the things that he says, but that rubs ownership wrong a lot of the times. But the other thing that I was going to say is with running backs in general, the hot thing that you hear people talking about is, oh, look at the Super Bowl winners of the past couple of years. They're doing it with non-high end running backs, guys that you don't have to spend a first round pick on. You look at Damian Williams, where he was drafted, and what the Chiefs spend on him. The Patriots, I think James White was their lead guy when they won their Super Bowls.
The Eagles.
Past couple of years, the Eagles too. I don't even know who their running back was.
It might have been Ajayi at that time.
Yeah, Ajayi, and then they had Corey Clement. They did it with a stable of guys.
They
so
did a few guys during that Eagles run.
I think a lot of teams are seeing that and they're thinking, well, maybe I don't have to keep Leonard Fournette around. Maybe he is expendable. I wouldn't trade him because I think he's an ultra talented guy. I like him a lot. I don't think you trade high end guys unless there's an injury concern like with Todd Gurley. But Leonard Fournette, yeah, Ben, I think that's a little surprising. Just you're talking about, hey, let's bring in Cam Newton. He's wanting to be part of the team. Yeah, he's on board. He wants the team to work. And then you hear about you being included in trades. But I think it's also because they look at owing him a certain amount of money and not wanting to pay him. So I don't know. It's interesting. But I think it's a wider trend to follow. And I think we'll see that in the draft also. Since we're finishing up talking about the draft, with the number of running backs that are taken in the first round, I think we might see one taken because I don't think there's too many high-end guys, and NFL personnel or NFL front offices just think that they can wait on a guy and they don't need the top-end guy anymore. So,
do you think it's only Swift?
Yeah, I think Swift. If there's going to be a guy that goes, it'll be Swift, definitely.
Yeah. It'll be Swift if it's a running back going in the first. As far as the Fournette situation, him and the Jaguars always had a shaky relationship. I know they tried to recover some of that money back that on a bonus they owed him a few years back. I don't know if you remember that. So I guess I don't know if he should really feel like that's home right now.
I'm so thankful they're in the Texans division, man. I'm so thankful. Like, it's crazy, bro. Like, Bill O'Brien's a clown, and yet he's won the division 4 out of the last 5 years because some of these other teams are being managed even worse, bro. It's terrible.
Our next topic is Texans and Cowboys. Who do we want our team to pick? I'll let you go first, Ben, since y'all don't have a first-round pick. Who do you want in the second round?
In the second round, I think that we're good on receivers for getting Cooks as far as depth-wise. Now, if they stay healthy is a whole nother thing, but I don't think that they should waste a second-round pick on another receiver. I think we need pass rushers.
Okay.
Either outside linebacker or defensive end. We just need pass rushers. Because when J.J. Watt gets hurt again this season for a game or two, in Week 11, when he goes out, man, we have nothing. If it's, Merciless is getting double-teamed at that point, and he's not good enough to beat double teams. He's good enough to play on the other side of a guy like J.J. Watt. So I'm just hoping for a pass rusher.
Fair play. I think that's a good assessment. You, Roland, who do you like for the Cowboys' first-round pick?
I have a couple of different scenarios. I have my dream scenario, who I would like to fall to the Cowboys.
Let me hear
I think
the dream.
we talked a lot about this. The dream for me, and again, I think I'm just overly hyped up on this guy. I love the receivers in this year's draft, but just with recency bias, if you will, with Tyreek Hill tearing up the league, I like Henry Ruggs. I would love for Henry Ruggs to fall to the Cowboys. It's been a while since I don't know the last time that we've had a guy that can take the top off of a defense, kind of like him, or an explosive guy that can operate out of the slot, kind of like him. So I definitely think Henry Ruggs, pairing him with Cooper and Michael Gallup would be a dream scenario for me. Most realistic, though, I think we talked about it earlier, Xavier McKinney, out of Alabama as a safety. Even though we did get Clinton Dix, I do think that we need another safety opposite of him. I don't know they're as confident in Xavier Woods or Jeff Heath. And then the other guy that I want to see drafted, because obviously we lost Byron Jones, was Trayvon Diggs or some cornerback. I want to see a cornerback drafted for sure. We need to address losing Byron Jones in free agency to Miami.
I hear you. For me, like you said, the dream, I would like to see Ruggs. That'd be an awesome 1-2 punch with Cooper and him. I don't know who's going to be able to defend that. And then you got Gallup coming in for another year. I would like to see that for Dak. But other than
Hopefully,
that,
Dak could use him.
When
Or
y'all
utilize
said
it
dream
properly.
scenario, I thought y'all were hoping that you traded your first round pick for Adams, the safety out of the Jets.
no,
All the
no, no.
that
all the
was pretty
hype
cool
was
too.
coming out of that.
Yeah,
Would that be
yeah.
better than any draft pick? Would you all be on board with that over any draft pick?
I like to see
I
points.
would. I would be okay with that, contingent on, him signing long term, because, we almost ran into that scenario this year with Amari Cooper. We traded a first round for Amari, and then it came down to the nitty gritty if we were going to sign him or not. How bad would that have looked if we gave up a first round for a year and a half of Amari Cooper and to see him walk somewhere else? So I definitely think there needs to be some assurances for Jamal Adams, but he is a Texas guy. So he might be inclined to sign long term with the Cowboys. I would like that. Thanks for bringing that up.
That could be another draft day name.
Yeah,
I
like
think
that.
I think that we're gonna see. I think that we're gonna see at least. Damn, this might be bold, but I think at least 2 trades in the first round.
Okay.
I can see that.
I don't know how many normally happen. There's been years where we have a bunch that year where all the quarterbacks went, Trubisky, Mahomes, and Watson. There's been years where we don't have much. I can see at least 2 this year. There's a lot of talent, man. For receiver, it's going to be interesting who's the first guy to go. Like, you think the Raiders are going to pick the first guy? And is it going to be CeeDee Lamb? Is it going to be Ruggs?
I think it's either CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy. Those are the 2 guys that I've seen linked as being the first receiver taken. I don't think there's any way that Jeudy makes it past the top 20. I think somebody's going to take him, whether that's the 49ers or if he falls to the Cowboys. But yeah, I think the first team to take a receiver, I think that's a good question. I do think the Raiders end up taking a receiver. If anybody takes one before that, I don't know.
It could start a domino effect too, though. If the Raiders do it, I could see teams right after that. Like I said, I have the 49ers getting a receiver. I have the Eagles getting a receiver. So,
all right. So since we're on the receiver talk, who's the more complete receiver coming out of this draft? Jeudy or Ruggs, or CeeDee Lamb?
I think the order that goes in is probably Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, then Henry Ruggs. I just give the edge to Jeudy in terms of being a natural route runner. I think he's probably the best route runner out of the group. In terms of the overall package, though, I would probably have to go with CeeDee Lamb. He's 6'2". He's a pretty good route runner. He's good at going up and getting. He's good at going up and getting the 50-50 balls. But the thing that I really do like about CeeDee Lamb, more than any of the other 3, would probably be his talent with the ball after the catch. He had an insane. I just found the stat. I was looking for it before the podcast. Was 21 yards after the catch.
Average.
I know that's playing in average. I know that's playing in a wide open offense. That's a wide open offense at Oklahoma, but just think about 21 yards after the catch. I mean, he has to make 1 or 2 guys miss on his own, regardless of what kind of offense you're in. If you have that kind of talent, I want you on my team. So I do like CeeDee Lamb a lot. But just most ready to translate to the NFL, probably Jerry Jeudy, just because he's going to be able to get open just on route running alone.
Okay. What about you, Ben?
Yeah.
Most complete receiver?
I'd probably go with Jeudy also. But the thing with all 3 of those guys is, and both of those schools, you really can't miss when you draft a receiver from Oklahoma or Alabama, bro.
No.
That maybe they're not all going to be Julio Jones, but it's not going to be no Darius Hayward-Bay, that you're taking in the first round. They're going to be good. It's not going to be a Baylor receiver, a TCU receiver. These are NFL guys.
Okay.
For sure. I agree. I think they're all 3 going to be future Pro Bowlers, at least at some point in their careers.
Yeah.
And as far as running back goes, who's the most complete running back? Swift, Dobbins, or Taylor out of Wisconsin?
I'd probably have to go Swift out of Georgia, just because he can do every aspect of the running game. He can block for you, provide some protection for your quarterback. Obviously, running is a strength of his, and catching the ball out of the backfield is another strength. And I think you need to have all 3 of those things to be a complete running back in the NFL today. I definitely like him. But sleeper out of that group, I do like Taylor out of Wisconsin. I do think he's a better receiver than people give him credit for, and he's already a good natural runner. So I do think he's going to make a name for himself at the next level.
I like
Yeah, I
Swift
think-
too. I think he's running that pro style offense, so it's going to be the easiest to adjust as far as these receiver running backs go. I know Dobbins is always in the spread for the most part, so he's not going to have the easiest transition. Well, we'll see. What about you, Ben?
Dobbins is actually my favorite guy, but I think the consensus for sure is Swift.
Yeah.
I think everybody's consensus is Swift as the overall guy, and another place where it's like a running back factory every year. Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia running backs are put to use in the NFL. So
Is
Big
Georgia,
boys.
is Georgia running back university?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, as of late, I think you'd kind of have to give it to them just because of
Yeah.
how successful Nick Chubb has been and how successful.
Gurley,
I'm blanking out on
Chubb.
his name.
Michelle.
The guy with the Patriots,
Sonny
Sony Michelle.
Michel.
There you go. It's been pretty successful.
Either, I would
Gurley,
say either them
Stanhope.
or Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin's had some decent ones.
Melvin Gordon as of late.
I think this guy's going to be good too, Taylor.
Taylor.
I think he's going to be good. They just got to get on the right team.
I think
that's
if you
all.
go the past 5 years, it's got to be Georgia, though. Running back you.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree. I definitely have to agree.
And another topic we're going to go with is best quarterback out of the draft. The best pure arm talent right now.
Quarterback, best pure arm talent. We talked about it in the beginning. It's Tua.
Tua for sure.
All day. I just watching his ball, watching the ball coming out of his hands. I think it's the most enjoyable out of any quarterback. Just the best pure passer there is. It's Tua for me, at least.
I like him too. That D ball is pretty nice as far as Tua goes. I don't think anybody's throwing a nicer D ball out of the upcoming draft picks than he is.
Yeah. I'll go with Tua too.
All right, now we're going to go over to our NFL over-unders. What are y'all's picks that stand out? 2 or 3. Give me 2 or 3 that stand out for you.
Yeah, so just looking at the over-unders, obviously I think the one that popped out to everybody was seeing how low the Patriots were ranked by Vegas in terms of their over-under. I've seen 8.5, I've seen 9, 8.5, 9 seems to be where they're at right now. That one's really stuck out to me. I think there's a lot of unknown until we know what happens with the draft, who their quarterback is going to end up being. But if you're just looking at it static, everything as it is right now, they're going into the season with who they have at quarterback, and they don't address it in the draft. I do think looking at them at under 8.5 or 9 is a pretty good bet. Just looking at their schedule, they have a couple tough road games. They have the Texans on the road, the Chiefs on the road, the Chargers on the road, the Rams on the road. That's a pretty tough schedule for them, just going on the road without Tom Brady at the helm for quarterback. The other one that I looked at that I really liked, and again, this is just everything static as is right now, is the Chiefs over 11.5. I think they get a really nice home schedule. They're already good at home as it is to begin with, but the teams that they have at home this year are the Texans, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Patriots, and the Jets outside of their normal division games. So I think there's a really good chance they win all of those games. And then on the road, it's the Bucs, the Saints, the Dolphins, and the Bills among their other division games. So I like the Chiefs at over 11.5. This is a little bit juicy, but I don't think there's a way that they lose the division. Is the Chiefs to win the division? Right now, the juice or the VIG is 350, minus 350. You're going to be paying a little bit, drinking a little bit of juice, but I think that's one that you can bet, put it away, and you're not thinking about that for the rest of the year because nobody else is going to win that division besides the Chiefs. I'm sorry. Unless Mahomes goes down for the season, which I hope that doesn't happen, but...
Even with him down for the season, I was going to say the same thing, and then I thought back. Even with him down, they pulled off games.
Yeah, with Matt Moore at quarterback.
Yeah,
exactly. And then the other one to close it out for the futures, because I think we'll talk about this more in depth after the draft, and as we get closer to the season, is staying in the AFC East is the Bills from Orchard Park there in Buffalo. I like them to win the division. They're the slight favorite right now at like plus 127. I saw yesterday on 5 Dimes. Then I also like them over 9 games. I think they get to 9. They can push at 9 games. They can go 9-7 and push for you, which is fine. But I do think there's a road for them to get to 10. They have the Chargers, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Steelers, and the Chiefs at home. I think they win a couple of those games. I don't think they beat the Chiefs, although there's a good chance they beat them at home.
That's going to be a good game. It's going to be a nasty game. When is that? What month? Does it say yet?
The official schedule's not out yet. The official schedule is going to come out the first or second week of May. But we do have the home and aways, which is what I was reading off. And then on the road, they got the Raiders, the Niners, the Titans, the Broncos, and the Cardinals. So I think they can beat the Broncos and the Cardinals, maybe the Raiders, and then give them losses against the 49ers and maybe the Titans. So I do think there's a road for them to get to 10. So I like the Bills this year, but a lot of it, I think, depends on, is Josh Allen your guy? I think the defense is there. The defense is always going to be there for them, and they have a good home field advantage. But are you guys sold on Josh Allen? I like him as a game manager. He's an athletic kind of guy, make throws on the run, but much more than that, I'm not sure. And they added Stephon Diggs, so they're going to ask him to do a lot this year, Stephon Diggs, and they're going to expect Josh Allen to hit him on those throws. So
I know he has the arm strength to hit him over the top, But would I want Josh Allen on my team as a backup? Maybe. I don't know if I.
Oh wow, that's disrespectful.
No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but y'all really want him starting on your team?
Hell yeah, bro!
I like him as a starter. He's a gamer, man. He's a gamer. He's not going to slide.
He got the awesome size and everything, but I'm not keeping him on my team.
But he can run. He'll get better at his accuracy with time, but. I mean, he's got all the intangibles, and he's already winning. Yeah, they're winning ugly.
Yeah, you know what? I would.
But in the fourth quarter, when they need to play, shoot, even that game against you all was. It might have been Thanksgiving Day. Did y'all play them?
Yeah, they beat us.
Yeah.
He had a drive at the end, because it was a close game in the fourth quarter, and
yeah, he did.
He had several games.
What I would have liked to see for Josh Allen was for him to go to a team where he didn't have to start right away. I would have liked to see him learn a little bit more than just get thrust into there the way he has been.
Unfortunately, that's
why we've seen him at the lower caliber.
But what he's done for the position that he got put in, I would say is pretty good. I mean, he got Buffalo back in the playoffs. It's been a while now. We're talking about the division being theirs for the taking.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have Josh Allen starting as a backup
for my team. I mean, I'm sure Dak. I'm going to go with Dak.
Josh Allen. I'm sure
I'm saying you're going to tell me you're going to put Josh Allen over Deshaun.
Josh Allen.
No.
That's why I said my team. I said my team.
Well, but he's better than Dak.
Where do you rank Josh Allen in his division? He's the second best quarterback.
And the AFC East?
Oh yeah, I think he might be the first.
He's first. I know with Brady gone, he's probably the first.
Yeah, I thought
Darnold's
your boy.
I just forgot about
He's
Brady
your
being
boy,
gone.
Justin. Darnold's your boy.
Not my
Josh
boy.
Allen's the best quarterback in the division.
No, Darnold's not my boy. Anyway,
he's good, man. Josh Allen's a good quarterback. Now he has a legit receiver. He had a bunch of little scat back receivers and a rookie.
I'm not saying he's bad. I just meant for my team, I'm not putting him on my team as the starter.
Yeah. Hopefully, Stephon Diggs gives him a number one target to throw to, and it helps with his development.
Yeah.
I think it will help a lot having a number one guy there for you.
For sure.
Even
throwing him shorter passes, he can take it. Diggs can fly.
The other thing, Roland, that you didn't mention about the Chiefs, which I thought you should have, was the returning starters. Like you told me.
Oh yeah. So that's another thing that kind of plays into that over 11.5, and then also the minus 350 to win the division is they have 20 of 22 returning starters. That's kind of the hot stat that's been thrown around right now. I think I saw that on ESPN the other day. 20 of 22 guys coming back from their Super Bowl team. And you think about it, they have a young team. They're not, an aging team where they have a lot of guys on their last legs. They have a bunch of guys entering or in the middle of their prime. So it's going to be a scary sight to see, especially with Mahomes taking another step forward this next year.
On those guys returning, is Watkins one of them coming back?
I think he is. I think Watkins is coming back. I don't know who the two guys that they lost were actually.
The only reason I asked is because I saw
interested.
something
I think
towards the end of the
Watkins might be a
season
free agent.
that he was going to take some time off or whatnot.
No, but that's like a stat that you hear about the Patriots or something. To hear it about the Chiefs is impressive, and that's from a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely what you want.
This is their window to reel off some championships. Definitely think they're the favorites going into this next year. So,
all right. Next topic, we covered a little bit about the Patriots, so let's do Brady versus Belichick. Who's going to have the better 2020?
Oh, Brady for sure, no doubt.
I'm gonna have to agree with Ben. I'm going with Brady too. Until the Chiefs, excuse me. Until the Patriots decide who's playing quarterback for them, it's Brady. That might change if they sign Cam or one of these other guys out there. But right now, Brady's going to have a better year than Belichick.
I couldn't agree more. I think Brady has the tools out there. Mike Evans, Connor Braid, and Alabama's tight end
Chris
over there,
Godwin.
Jordan Howard, and then Godwin.
Don't forget Chris Godwin.
The tools are there.
I saw that they have OJ Howard on the trade block, which was surprising.
OJ Howard is tight end.
I know they have a couple of tight ends like Brait's there also, but OJ Howard personally is my favorite one as far as what he can do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like the Bucs as a dark horse to make some noise in that NFC conference. I don't know if they're going to win the division because I think the Saints are still a strong ball club.
You still see the Saints over the Bucs now?
I still think the Saints will still win the division, but I do think the Bucs are going to make the playoffs and they can make some noise. I mean, you just think about the amount of games and again, I like Jameis Winston, but if you think about the games that the Bucs lost, man, they were playing from behind because of Jameis a lot. I mean, regardless of what you want to say, if you like him or not, unlucky or lucky, whatever, they were playing from behind a lot. And if any other quarterback that doesn't turn over the ball like that was their QB, they might have won that game. So if you're telling me you're going to replace Jameis, who throws 30 picks, with Brady, who will probably throw under 10 picks, I'm going to go with the Bucs having a better year than the Patriots.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
You're
I'm excited for football.
You're with it too?
Yeah, I'm with it also, bro. I have Brady going deep in the playoffs. I'm not talking Super Bowl, but he'll be playing. I think he'll be in the NFC title game. The Bucs are they're gonna be dangerous.
Okay.
Dangerous.
I think they will.
And I just don't think that if Brady, like what he was able to do, I don't think there's a quarterback that could go into the Patriots and fill in and pick up everything. Obviously, yeah, Brady's on his father time is starting, I guess, to catch up to him. It looks like with this past season, but he didn't have the greatest of weapons there.
No, he didn't.
Oh no, Julian Edelman was his best receivers last year. There.
And and it's not enough's been said about it, but that second rounder that they traded for Sanu, I mean, damn,
that was a bad trade.
That was a pretty bad trade. Looking back at it.
Yeah, Sanu didn't do anything for them.
But that's how desperate they were. Bro.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Antonio Brown. And they let him go, and him and Brady were kind of electric together that one game. Granted, it was against Miami, but
there
they had some pretty good success. Yeah. So imagine if Antonio Brown had stayed. So, yeah, what could have been?
Is Antonio Brown going to play this year? Are we going to see him on a team?
Man, I hope so. I'm still an Antonio Brown fan. I like him as a player. There's been no drop off athletically.
There's none.
It's just all about the locker room and whether or not you want to take on that kind of a risk, because regardless of what you want to say about the guy's talent, he is kind of risky bringing into your locker room. It's just his attitude or whatever's gotten into him over the past couple of years. I've noticed as a fan, because I follow this guy, and he's changed. I don't know what it is, but he just kind of seems like a different guy than he was a couple of years ago, even after experiencing the success with the Steelers. There's something off about him recently, and I just can't put my finger on it. So,
I know people joking, they call it the Burfict effect.
After he got hit by Burfict,
it's been a little different.
Maybe after he was laying on the field for a couple minutes, so he was rethinking some things. But I would take the risk on him just because I still think he's a top-end talent. Now, granted, receiver is probably one of the deepest positions in the league. He's still a top 10 guy, top 5, depending on your preference.
Yeah, he's a guy you can insert in your offense at any time.
Yeah, he's still that kind of guy. So I hope to see him in the league. Whether or not he's going to be there, I can't answer that. it's 50-50 for me. I can't make a confident bet.
I think my early prediction is no, but there's a lot of time. Summer hasn't even started yet. So.
Yeah, and we could see him maybe not start with the team, but then come on before playoffs to help a team out.
Right. I think I don't see him on a team at the start of the season, but I could see him on a team by the end of the season.
All right.
I'll go with it.
I'm with you. Anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about as far as NFL goes? Anything we missed or anything else y'all want to cover?
The one thing was there was a little bit of noise about OBJ and the OBJ trade, and then today it came out the Browns just saying that it was all completely false. They've never shopped
I've
him around.
heard that before. I've heard the Giants said the same thing. David Gettleman came out and said the same thing, and then traded him like 2 or 3 days later. So
yeah, I don't believe it. And the Vikings got a lot in that Diggs pick, so I could. Those two teams being linked, it kind of just makes you want to believe it. You know what I mean? Because it makes so much sense.
And who did the Vikings hire as their head coach? I know he's a former offensive coordinator. I just can't remember what team he was with as an offensive coordinator. He's a first-time head coach, but I know he's going to be looking for some new toys to play with now that they lost Diggs. But no, I think we covered all of the NFL, really. I mean, I hope there's NFL. I think there will be. I know the coronavirus and the quarantine, everything's going on, but I definitely think we covered it all for now.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
All right. Well, let's move on to our MMA preview. It's been a while since we had a UFC event, a Bellator event, hell, even a local event. It's been a minute. So with not much to say, let's fantasy book a little bit. What fight do you want to see the most coming out next, personally?
And Ben, what do you want to see?
Off of what's been, I guess, leaked, Brett Okamoto off ESPN leaked that card that they're trying to work on for May 9th, and it changed from what was for the card that was supposed to be last night. I know, like, Nunez got added, I believe, to this.
Yeah,
one.
I saw that.
Cejudo and Cruz got added to this one. A couple of different fights, and a couple stayed on the card. So from the new ones that I saw, I think that it's ridiculous, but it's like, all right, let's just have it happen so that this dude can fight. Was the Cejudo and Cruz? I saw like 2 weeks ago, Cruz went live with Helwani on the ESPN MMA page on Instagram, and he started lobbying for the title shot on mid-interview, and I could not believe what this dude was talking about. Like, you haven't fought in 3 years, and he's talking about, oh, these guys are locked out of the country, because Cejudo was supposed to be scheduled to fight Aldo. Yeah. And then Peter Yan would be next.
A sham.
Even that one, right? But then Peter Yan would be another one of the top contenders, and he's knocked out also. But like Aljamain Sterling is here, he's been active, he's been fighting, and then he started with, I threw the word out, and they kind of owe it to me. I've been calling fights, and I'm a top caliber fighter, whatever. A couple of weeks ago, and I didn't put much behind it, and now Okamoto tweets that's the actual title fight. Bro, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I know they try and drive viewership, but Matt, it's just very, 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 very disrespectful to the system and the whole ranking process to just overlook Aljamain Sterling and all that he's done in the past 1 to 2 years and give that fight to Cruz. I know you're trying to sell fights, and Cruz is obviously going to sell fights. He has a pretty strong fan base. Like Ben just mentioned, he's been calling fights, so he's a fresh name in the name of a lot of general common MMA fan name or fans' heads, excuse me. So I think that's a good fight. But out of the list of fights that got released for May the 9th, the one that I'm kind of looking forward to is Donald Cerrone and Anthony Pettis. Their last 5 fights, they both have losing records. I think last 3, I think they're both winless. I think it's a little bit more important for Cerrone because of his age, but the same regard, I think it's a must-win fight for Anthony Pettis. He had that big shocking win against Stephen Thompson a couple of, I think it's been about a year or so ago. I can't remember the timeline, but it's been a few fights. It was his first fight at welterweight, right? Yeah. And he was getting torched, I thought, before that sequence happened where he knocked him out with a Superman punch. And then you look at his Ferguson fight, which I thought was pretty good, but Ferguson obviously ended up winning that fight. So for Pettis, I think he definitely needs to come out strong and get a dub. But Cerrone, I think you're looking at a curtain call. If he loses this fight, I don't think it's retirement, but I think you start thinking that kind of route if you don't win this fight, and depending how you lose this fight. Because if you look at his last two more so for me are a little bit more telling. The what was it? Just Gaethje, that fight. It was hard to watch for me, seeing Cerrone go out there. And then what was the other fight before that? And then the Conor fight. I mean, the shoulder strike might have been a little bit of a bad luck kind of a thing, but he just didn't look very good. So I'm definitely looking forward to that fight. I'm a big Cowboy fan. I want to see him win, but at the same time, nobody's walked into the ring more times than he has in UFC history. So you have to think that's catching up to him. So I'm looking forward to that fight.
Definitely need to start booking him like the way that they're booking Diego Sanchez, and not booking him.
Yeah, give him some winnable fights.
Like they're booking, these top end guys, because he's not that anymore.
Yeah.
I love the guy, but
they gave him the Conor fight. Now it's time to just this fight against Pettis is a pretty good fight. I think that he can win.
I think it's a fair matchup. I really do. But here's the thing: if Cerrone does get knocked out, you got to have that conversation with him that we're going to start taking some fighters that aren't at the same caliber now for you.
They're definitely not cutting Cerrone.
No, they're not.
No,
and
he's too big of a
not.
ticket.
They're definitely not forcing him to retire either.
No.
They're just, like I said, they would start booking him like they're booking Diego Sanchez.
I see that. Now, let's say he gets subbed by some reason. Do you think they book him still that way?
If he gets booked in what way?
The Sanchez way?
It depends how he looks. Like if he comes out as a competitive fight, then he gets subbed. Then
no, I don't think so either. I think the only chance he loses is by knockout.
I think he can win. I think he wins. I think that there's more of a chance of Pettis. Like, his brother already left to Bellator. I'm not sure what his contract looks like.
Future
but if you don't beat Cerrone, man, there's not much left for you in the UFC at your age. Maybe obviously the UFC has the most talented guys. Maybe he'd go to PFL and just try win a mill.
It's just crazy how much. At least for me, because I think about it like in terms of business and like first to market. Anthony Pettis was kind of like the first guy, one of the first MMA superstars, and then he's just gotten passed by a bunch of guys, and it's kind of surprising to see that happen. I thought he'd be more of a highly regarded name in MMA today, just based on where he started back in the WEC days. So that's kind of surprising for me to see, but that's a fight game, I guess.
All right. Well, the fight for me that I'm just looking forward to is Ferguson and Gaethje. Just to be honest, I don't like the fight. I don't like this fight for Ferguson. I really don't. I would have held out. I wish he would have held out for Khabib. I don't want to see him by some chance get hit, get rocked, and there goes the whole Khabib chance. That's the fight I want to see most. And so I am looking forward to it because I want to see a dub for him. But at the same time, I feel like it's not right that he has to. Why isn't Khabib fighting? Why isn't he not taking on somebody in between this time before the rematch? Or it's just not fair for Ferguson in my eyes. I'm champion.
Shame on Khabib.
I'm with you, but I'm with you, but that's on Ferguson. He doesn't have to fight. I mean, he just wants to. He didn't have to make weight, and he made weight.
That was awesome.
Does that affect his body in any way? Like still going and making weight and putting him through that?
That was what I was going to say, because this May 9th card's 3 weeks away. So
he just went through hell to make 155.
And in his interview, he was saying that he started cutting from 179 to make 155. So now what's he going to get back up to? And then suppose if that fight goes down in 3 weeks, he's going to get back down to 155?
That's a dangerous game to be playing.
Like, I wasn't worried about him fighting Gaethje. I thought he was going to walk through Gaethje, but now it kind of like it's like the little little unknown factor of weight cutting. Twice.
I get the champ shit only thing, but I was thinking about that whole thing. Everybody was getting hyped up about him still making weight, but Ben just brought up, you got to fight in 3 weeks. Why are you doing that? I
Now,
don't
if he
understand
does it and beats him still, he's a legend.
That's
But if-
champ shit only, yeah.
yeah, it's championship only for real. But if he does what he did and then loses, and then all that you're going to hear about is that. That's all you're going to hear about.
That's crazy, man. But
How it sucked energy out of him, and he wasn't himself in there. The last thing we need is him looking like Woodley against Usman
mhm.
with Gaethje's pressure. You
let's-
know what I mean?
Let's just say Gaethje pulls it out. Do we see another booking of Khabib and Tony Ferguson?
Nah, I think
No.
they'd
I
have
think
Gaethje
that'd be
fight.
good.
I think they'd have Gaethje fight Khabib, and I actually think that they would have Conor fight Ferguson.
Nah,
If
nah.
Ferguson gets knocked out, Conor would be chomping at the bit to get in there.
I
Yeah,
hate
that or
this is not really a good win-win any situation for Ferguson at all.
It's
Nope.
not. No, definitely not.
if
But
you win,
all
you're
that
at
it
the same
is-
spot you were before it happened.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all been the hardest path. He's been winning more fans throughout the weeks. But he's definitely giving himself the hardest path.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have taken the Gaethje fight, but that's why Tony Ferguson's Tony Ferguson and I'm not. So
Yeah,
yeah.
one of a kind. All right, that's the end of the podcast. What are y'all watching this week on TV? Give the people something to watch.
Well, I don't know if I'm giving anybody anything to watch. I think everybody's already looking forward to it. It's The Last Dance tonight. The Michael Jordan 1997-1998 Bulls last championship run. That 10-part documentary on ESPN. I'm going to be plugged in tonight, so that's what I'll be doing.
2 episodes
Yeah,
a week.
Yep.
5
Yeah,
weeks.
2 episodes a week for 5 weeks. That's not bad.
I'm ready for that. Apparently, Michael Jordan is afraid of not afraid, but he's just saying that people are going to think about him in a negative light after watching some of this footage.
We might
Which,
see the
quite
real
frank-
Michael, not the Space Jam
Well-
Michael.
Quite frankly, I want to see that. That's what I want to see. I don't really care if he comes out as an asshole or whatever, because I mean he has 6 rings.
Yeah,
I don't really care. And,
I wanna
unless
see
he,
I want to see the
Unless he
man that
murdered
won
somebody.
6 rings.
yeah,
the real
exactly. Yeah, I want to see that. So Michael Jordan, stuff of legend. I mean, you hear about all the things like, well, why did he really take that time off? I
Yeah.
mean, will they get into that? I don't know. So I'm excited to watch it. I'm a big Jordan fan. I always have been. I still have his black Chicago Bulls jersey
All right.
chilling at home. So I like that.
What about you, Ben? You got anything to watch this week?
If you haven't seen Dave,
I've been on Dave since you told me.
midweek, Dave's a good show to watch. I'm gonna be watching the same thing. I'm not a big Jordan fan, not a Bulls fan. I was a Stockton and Malone fan, and he gave them the business. But I will be watching. Definitely, I was reading up about it this morning actually, and they were talking about how he's been sitting on all this footage for a while, and he released it.
Yeah,
So,
I saw
I mean, he
something.
knows what it is. So if he's saying that people are going to look at him in a different way, a lot of us that in the basketball community or that are into that kind of stuff know that he's not talked about as the best person ever. With that whole thing with Chameleonaire telling
Yeah.
Chameleonaire to take pictures with dudes and him putting money into prisons and stuff. But I mean, he's a GOAT, right? So let's see what it's all about.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not proof to everything everybody's been saying.
Yeah,
I don't think it'd be that.
And I think Justin brought it up too. It's like it's not the whole Space Jam Michael Jordan that we're going to be seeing in this thing. So that's kind of exciting because that's a side that we haven't seen yet. It's just all been kind of rumor and hearsay. But this is just me, product of me and the age that I was during that time. So 98, I was like 6 years old. So Jordan was kind of like the first basketball player that I kind of recognized and remembered his name, so he always resonated with me growing up. But I had no idea that there was that internal strife between the team and the general manager, Jerry Krause at the time. I think that's his name at the time, kind of wanting to break up the team and whatnot. And they kind of alluded to that in the ESPN preview that they showed, that they knew that going into this year 6, the last dance, that this was going to be their last go around because the GM wanted to break them up. for whatever reason. So I never knew that stuff was going on. So I'm kind of interested to learn a little bit more because, like I said, I was like 6 or 7 when that stuff was really happening. I just knew Jordan and the spectacle and the icon that he was. So I'm kind of excited to see what that was really about.
Yeah, I'm expecting to learn a lot. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan, but I respect and appreciate it all. So it's going to be a lot of information that I didn't know before for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing for me. Basketball then, I didn't know the ins and outs. I didn't know what I was really seeing other than Jordan putting a ball in the hoop. So I'm going to get to see it from a GM perspective. I get to see all that. It's going to be nice.